Welcome, participants, to the second session of the 14th refresher course in political science. Today we have a friend and a colleague from Banaras Hindu University. This is Professor Tej Pratap Singh, who is an expert in international relations. As some of you might have heard, he has a long teaching experience of almost 30 years. He has He started his career as an assistant professor in St. Andrew's College, Gorakhpur, and because of his scholarship, because of his teaching skills, he was able to find a place in Banaras Hindu University where he has stayed, where he joined in 2006, and he is now a professor in Banaras Hindu University. I think he is scheduled to be a head, or he may have been an ex-head of the Department of Political Science, Banaras Hindu University. I can't tell you a lot about Professor T.P. Singh because he has done so much work, and I have heard him so often speak on issues related to international relations. The only thing I want to highlight is that he has been a visiting fellow in the University of Cambridge, South Asian Studies Center in Budapest, in the Center of European Studies and and Central Asian Studies, and he has been also to the University of Canada as a visiting fellow. So he has traveled extensively both in India and abroad. He has several articles in journals and edited books. And I don't think there is an area in international relations in which he is not an expert. He is knowledgeable in almost all the areas of international relations, and all his talks, whether it is on Indo-China relations, whether it is on the theory of international relations, whether it is on Indo-Pakistan relations, are very, very interesting and very informative. So international relations is one area which is a very poor subject for me. So I'm not going to express any opinion on this subject. What Professor T.P. Singh is going to talk about today is how we theorize Indian foreign policy. And I feel it is a very interesting topic because Indian foreign policy basically becomes relations between two countries or two and more countries. Scholars view these relations and what is their opinion on this would be very, very interesting. So therefore, I'm not going to take up much of your time and I'm going to request Professor T.P. Singh to kindly start his lecture.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for a very nice introduction.
TP.
Yeah, can you hear the participants? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, sure.
Yeah.
We are hearing.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So thank you so much, madam, for very nice introductions. And it is always a great pleasure, great honor, and rare privilege to interact with any program of University of Allahabad, because University of Allahabad has been my alma mater. All the degrees from graduation till my research I have from University of Allahabad. Though in between for 6 years I was in JNU, but something happened that the PhD degree I got it from University of Allahabad rather than JNU. And I am frequent visitor there, and most of the people know me there. I think some of the participants also must be knowing me. As madam said, my area is international relations. I'm a student of international relations. And here the topic which has been given to me, in fact, I consulted with your HOD, Professor Pankaj Kumarji. So I suggested many topics, and out of those topics, he suggested me you speak on theorizing of Indian foreign policy. So on his suggestion, after consulting him, I have chosen this topic of theorizing Indian foreign policy. So here I will try to theorize the Indian foreign policy by using the different theories of international relations, we so that this IR study should not be like a broad narrative here. So when we talk about the theories, so theories, as you all know, they put the facts in the proper perspective. And theories, as you all know, the theories are kind of lenses. You wear a particular kind of lens, and the world will look like that. You wear the red glass, the whole world will look red. You wear the green glass, you will find the whole world green. So in the same way, the kind of lens you will use, the same kind of picture you will get. The same thing applies to the theory also. You use a particular theory, and you will get a particular view of the perspective of the Indian foreign policy, or for that matter, any issue. So in IR, there are many theories, but it is not possible to discuss about all the theories and their application for the understanding and for the explanation of Indian foreign policy. But I will be confining myself, restricting myself to the representative theory of international relations, and I will use them to explain and to understand the various issues of Indian foreign policy. So very briefly, I will just take the names of the theories, enumerate the theories, which I will be discussing later on. So first theory, as we all know, that without realism, the discussion of theory in IR is incomplete. So definitely, my focus will be on realism in international politics. And while talking about realism, I will focus on both the classical realism as well as the neo-realism. Then I will move to the international liberalism. And in international liberalism, my focus will be on the complex interdependence, the theory which has been developed by the Robert Cohen and Joseph Nye. Then the third theory which I will be discussing, that will be the social constructivism of the Alexander Went. And the fourth theory I will discuss, because unless and until you are not touching the Marxism, the Marxist theory or theory inspired by the Marxism, the theory discussion is incomplete. So here I will be talking about the word system theory that developed by the Emmanuel Westerstein in the international relations. So these are the theories I will be talking about, and there are other theories also. The green theory is there, the feminist theory is there, but in question answer we can take up those theories also. But in my presentation, I will be skipping the green theories, the environmentalism, as well as the feminist theory. So, starting from the of the first theory, that is the most popular theory in international relations, probably most dominant theory in international relations, and that is the realist theory. In realist
Excuse
theory,
me, sir.
uh,
Sorry to
yes,
interrupt.
and
If it possible to
yes, please.
bilingual, sir, please.
यस श्योर 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 श्योर
Lecture.
तो हम ठीक है
Okay.
मतलब
Thank you, sir.
हो जाए ठीक है चलिए कोई बात नहीं तो इन हम की बात करेंगे तो सबसे पहले हम जब कोई रिसर्च करते हैं या स्टडी करते हैं कुछ भी करते हैं तो प्रॉब्लम आती है कि ऑन व्हिच एस्पेक्ट वी हैव टू लुक एट सो फर्स्टली because in relations, in bilateral relations, in foreign policy, first thing is the cooperation and second is conflict. Because you study any foreign policy, आप किसी भी इशू को अगर जो करेंगे आईआर में तो दो इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें जिसके बारे में है कॉन्फ्लिक्ट एंड कोऑपरेशन. तो इफ यू हैव टू लुक एट द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट and conflict is one of the major feature of international relations, international politics, world politics. So the most appropriate theory to understand the conflict, that theory is the theory of realism. So if you want to study the geopolitical rivalry between India and China, the geopolitical rivalry between India and Pakistan, or geopolitical rivalry between any country, between any two countries, or for that matter, the Cold War rivalry between Soviet Union and United States of America. सो यदि आपको जियोपॉलिटिकल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट पे फोकस करना है, जियोपॉलिटिकल राइवलरी पे बात करनी है, तो जो मोस्ट एप्रोप्रिएट थियरी है वो आपकी जो है रियलिज्म की थियरी है. और इन थियरीज में दोनों की बात हम करेंगे, क्लासिकल रियलिज्म की और जो है उसके साथ साथ जो है स्ट्रक्चरल रियलिज्म की, जिसको नियो रियलिज्म भी हम कहते हैं. तो तो सपोज करिए आप इंडिया चाइना जो उनकी जियोपॉलिटिकल राइवलरी है, इफ यू वांट टू स्टडी साइनो इंडियन जियोपॉलिटिकल राइवलरी, और यू वांट टू स्टडी दिस साइनो इंडियन बॉर्डर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, या गलवान की कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हुई या जो भी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हुई है, या 1962 वॉर हुआ, बिकॉज द इंडियन इंडिया चाइना रिलेशन, साइनो इंडियन relations has been characterized by conflict and cooperation. Both are there. Conflict is there as well as cooperation is there. But if you want to focus on conflict, so the theory which can be helpful to you, that theory is the a realist theory. In the same way, इंडिया पाकिस्तान राइवलरी की आपको स्टडी करनी है, तो इंडिया पाकिस्तान राइवलरी के लिए भी वहां भी जो मोस्ट अप्रोप्रिएट थियरी है वो आपकी रियलिज्म की थियरी है. Can you allow me to speak in English? Later on we can discuss in Hindi, because हम bilingual होने में इधर में काफी जो thought
No
process,
problem, sir. You can speak. You can speak without any hesitation. Please.
No
वो जो
problem.
thought process है वो डिस्टर्ब हो जा रहा है, मैं इधर का उधर
Sure,
कर रहा हूँ.
sure.
हाँ ठीक.
Okay, sir.
So for geopolitical rivalry, for that matter, any geopolitical rivalry, whether India Pakistan geopolitical rivalry, or India China, or India America, any country. So the theory which is available to you is the realism. Now again, in the realism itself, there are two realism theories. One theory is the classical realism. So in classical realism, if you want to focus on the role of a leader, the role of actor, the role of decision maker. So if you feel that this foreign policy is driven by a particular prime minister or a particular foreign minister, something like that. So if you are focusing on the role of an actor, by actor I mean the prime minister, I mean the foreign minister, who is shaping the foreign policy. So in this context, if you want to focus on the role of an actor, so the best theory for the study of any bilateral conflict, whether it is India, Pakistan, India, China, or for that matter any country, so the best theory is the Hans Morgenthau classical realism here. As you know, in the classical realism, the focus is on that it is the, as you know, that Hans Morgenthau has said the first basic principles of realism is that international politics is governed by certain objective laws, and these objective laws are rooted in the human nature. So this is the first principle of Hans Morgenthau. So he says that here the nature, human nature, that is the determining factor. So foreign policy is shaped, foreign policy is determined by the nature of the nature of the thinking of the prime minister, foreign minister, or all those people who are associated with the Ministry of External Affairs, who play the dominant role in the making of the foreign policy. He or she can be the foreign secretary also, because foreign secretary also plays important role. तो इनका अगर जो हम किसी के फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी के रोल पे फोकस कर रहे हैं, प्राइम मिनिस्टर के रोल पे फोकस कर रहे हैं, फॉरेन मिनिस्टर के रोल पे फोकस कर रहे हैं, तो जो सबसे अप्रोप्रिएट थियरी है स्टडी के लिए वो हैंस मर्गेंथौ की क्लासिकल रियलिज्म है. क्लासिकल रियलिज्म में आपने थियरी में पढ़ा होगा कि दो प्रकार की थियरीज हैं. एक थियरी है इनसाइड आउट अप्रोच, दूसरा है आउटसाइड इन अप्रोच. तो हंस मर्गेंथौ की जो थियरी है वो इनसाइड आउट अप्रोच है, यानी वो उनका ये कहना है कि जो डोमेस्टिक पॉलिसी है, फॉरेन पॉलिसी को मानते हैं कि फॉरेन पॉलिसी इज द एक्सटेंशन ऑफ डोमेस्टिक पॉलिसी. So and then again they say that it is the foreign policy is the projection of domestic policy. तो जो फॉरेन मिनिस्टर है, प्राइम मिनिस्टर है, या जो भी हैं जो पॉलिसी मेकिंग में है, डिसीजन मेकिंग में है, तो जो डोमेस्टिक लेवल से आगे बियॉन्ड जाके करते हैं, तो वहाँ पे मतलब ये जो एक्टर का रोल है वो इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाता है. तो ये क्लासिकल रियलिज्म में हम इस पे करते हैं. सपोज करिए आप बांग्लादेश वार की स्टडी करना चाहते हैं, और बांग्लादेश की वार की स्टडी में आप इंदिरा गांधी के रोल को फोकस करना चाहते हैं, तो फॉर दिस द मोस्ट अप्रोप्रिएट थियरी इज द classical realism of Hans Bergenthau, because it focuses on the human nature, the thinking of a particular person. So if you are focusing on Indira Gandhi's role, then the only theory available to you for the study of Bangladesh crisis, then this classical realism is the most relevant theory. In the same way, if you want to, there are certain people who are talking about the Modi doctrine. Now, Modi doctrine has become very fashionable. Everybody is talking about Modi doctrine. So, if you want to focus on Modi doctrine, are the main role of Modi in the shaping of the making of the Indian foreign policy. So, the theory which is relevant to you is the classical realism, the theory developed by Hans Mergenthau. Because here in the foreign policy, the center place is occupied by the Modi. So, and again, if you want to focus on the role of Jaisankar, Modi, Sushma Swaraj, etc., then the theory which can help you in understanding Modi doctrine or Modi's foreign policy or Indira Gandhi's foreign policy or for that matter Nehru's foreign policy. तो जब भी आप किसी प्राइम मिनिस्टर या फॉरेन मिनिस्टर या गुजराल डॉक्ट्रिन की हम बात करते हैं, so many people say Gujarat doctrine probably Gujarat was the foreign minister at that time when the Gujarat doctrine came. So Gujarat has his own thinking, his own ideas, etc. about the policy towards neighbor. तो आपको गुजराल डॉक्ट्रिन की स्टडी करनी है, मोदी डॉक्ट्रिन की स्टडी करनी है, इंदिरा गांधी के रोल को स्टडी करनी है बांग्लादेश क्राइसिस में या फॉर दैट मैटर. सो व्हेन यू आर फोकसिंग ऑन द रोल ऑफ द एक्टर, so most appropriate theory in international relation is the classical realism, the theory developed by Hans Mergenthau. Now from here I'm moving to the next theory, that is the structural realism. The structural realism, as you know, that this theory focuses on the outside-in approach. Outside-in approach means it is the external environment, it is the international structure, it is the international system determines, shapes the foreign policy of a country. So here, the role of actors becomes insignificant. Who is occupying the post of prime minister? Who is occupying the post of foreign minister? Who is occupying the position of foreign secretary? It becomes immaterial. Because here the structural constraint, the systemic constraint, they determine, they shape the foreign policy of a country. So here, here the foreign policy is not the extension of the domestic policy, but here the external environment, or you can say the global structure, or regional structure, or you can say the international system, or you can say the regional system, it determines, it shapes the foreign policy of a country, and that applies to all the countries, that applies to India also. So, and you know, this policy also talks about the global order. Because if you want to understand the global structure, if you want to understand the global system, so for understanding of the international system, global system, regional order, global order, so to know what are the structural constraints, to know what are the systemic constraints, so you have to know the word order, the global order. And as you know, this global order is determined by the distribution of power or distribution of capability in the international system here. So here I will be talking about the Kenneth Walsh. Kenneth Walsh, instead of using the word power, he uses the word capability here. So he says that the distribution of the capability in the international system determines the shape of the world order. So if the power is concentrated at one point, then definitely the global structure, the international structure, the international system, the global system will be the unipolar world order. And if the power or capability is distributed at 2 points, at 2 poles, then it becomes the bipolar world, as we had during the Cold War period. But if this distribution of capability of power is at more than 1 pole, more than 2 poles, then the worlds become multipolar, as we had the multipolar world before the outbreak of the Second World War. And the word after 1990, people say it is a unipolar word because the power is concentrated at 1 pole, and that 1 pole is United States of America. So here polarity becomes important here. And this polarity is determined by the distribution of power or capability in the industrial system. So here, if you are using the Kenneth Walls structural realism or neo-realism, so here foreign policy not being the extension of domestic policy. In fact, foreign policy is determined by the regional and global constraint. The regional structure, the global structure determines the foreign policy. The point they are making that if it is a unipolar world or unipolar structure, then countries will have a different kind of foreign policy. If it is a bipolar structure, bipolar world order, the countries will have a different kind of foreign policy. And if it is a multipolar world or multipolar world order or multipolar structure, then definitely the countries will have a different kind of foreign policy. I'm illustrating this point further. During the Cold War period, India had the luxury of option of being in the with the United States of America and with the Soviet Union also. So when our relations with the United States of America were getting strained, as you all know, America was expecting that India will become a crime follower of United States of America, and America hated India's policy of non-alignment. And as you know, the John Foster Dulles used to call the non-alignment as a evil. So, and opportunistic policy, etc. So, United States of America initially tried to cultivate good relations with India, and they wanted India to be a crime follower because India has adopted liberal democracy. They had not adopted communism, etc. But when India did not join their camp, so gradually United States of America became hostile to India and they started supporting Pakistan. And the situation came to such a stage that during Bangladesh crisis, India was left with no option but to go for peace and friendship cooperation treaty with the Soviet Union to protect its national interest. But this was possible because the world was bipolar world. The global structure was the bipolar structure. So India had the option of joining hand with the Soviet Union to neutralize American interference in the South Asian subcontinent, etc. So, so if the world is the bipolar, and the same thing happened with many countries also. You know, in the case of Egypt also, Egypt was initially very close to United States of America. But then when United States of America started arm twisting Egypt, then Egypt joined the hand with Soviet Union and became very close to Soviet Union. And then again, you all know Egypt during Sadat time, there's again switched the camp from Soviet camp to United States of America camp. The point I'm making, if the word is the bipolar word, and if the structure is the bipolar structure, so in this countries have the option of joining hand with this superpower or that superpower. So, so the point here I'm making that the global structure is very important, is most dominant factor in shaping and determining the foreign policy of a country. And again, I'm coming to the same point. When after 1990, 1990, the word became the unipolar world order. It became a unipolar structure. Then India had lost the option of Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was no longer there. It has disintegrated. So, so when the Kargil crisis came, as you all know, so America was this Pakistan was also courting America. India was also courting America. All the issues were by Vajpayee government was taken to Clinton, and the Pakistan Musharraf was also taking the matter to the Clinton because the world order was the unipolar world order. The structure was the unipolar structure. India had no option. Pakistan had no option but to court but to go into the court of the United States of America to have a good relations with these countries, and they expected help from Musharraf also expected help from America, and India also expected help from America. So the point I'm making here, because the word was the unipolar word, it was a unipolar structure. So India and Pakistan both were trying to be on good terms with the same country. So during Cold War, India has a different kind of foreign policy. But in the post-Cold War world, when it became a unipolar world, as we all know, that this shift took place in Indian foreign policy, and India started coming closer gradually to United States of America, and now they have come so close to United States of America because Cold War time, one American scholar has written a very beautiful book, Strange Democracies, because America is the oldest democracy and India is the largest democracy. So these two democracies were the strange democracies. But this same strange democracy have now become the engaged democracy. Now India and America has come so closer to each other. So because India was compelled to have a good relation with the United States of America. This is a point I'm making, and this argument is of Kenneth Waltz, not mine. This structural realism concept argument, that if the word is unipolar, or for that matter, the foreign policy of a country depends upon the kind of global order, the kind of world order, the kind of international system, the kind of regional system. So regional constraint, the global constraint, the structural constraint, they determine the foreign policy of any country, and it applies to India and it applies to all. So this is that's all about application of classical realism of Hans Morgenthau to understand and to explain the Modi doctrine, the Indira Gandhi foreign policy, Nehru foreign policy, Gujarat doctrine, or for that matter, the foreign policy of any prime minister, any foreign minister, any foreign secretary, etc. If you are focusing on the role of actor, and then again, if you are focusing on the role of structure, the structural constant, etc. So the theory that is useful to you, relevant to you, that theory is the structural realism theory developed by Kenneth Waltz and John Mersheimer also. There are many, I've taken name of only Kenneth Waltz. John Mersheimer is also there. I will not go into detail the offensive realism and defensive realism, etc., because it will become a pure theory class, etc., because my focus is on Indian foreign policy. So this is the one theory you can apply for the understanding, for explaining the Indian foreign policy. Now I'm moving to the second theory. As I said in the beginning, the bilateral relation, the multilateral relations is not all about conflict. Conflict is only one aspect of international politics. Conflict is only one aspect of bilateral relations, one aspect of foreign policy. Another aspect that is also equally important, equally dominant, and that is the cooperation. So cooperation is also happening in the international system. So when you have to focus on cooperation, you have to highlight cooperation, then the only available theory, that is the international liberalism. So international liberalism, you all are familiar with that. And this international liberalism also talk about the cobweb word model. Cobweb word model means this word is like a cobweb, makdi ke jale ki tarah hai. So all are interconnected with each other, all are intertwined. So you can't separate the word, you can't separate the one country from another country. It is a complex word, and this theory has been developed further by Robert Cohen and Joseph Ney. They call it complex interdependence. So the contemporary word is a complex interdependence. All are dependent upon each other. If you are hurting a country, so you will not be hurting that particular country, you are be hurting yourself also, because the word is like that, the cooperation is like that. So if you have to focus on cooperation between two countries or between many countries, so for a cooperation, for the study of cooperation between different countries, the only relevant theory is the theory of realism. So here this theory and the rival theory, the realism theory, just I discussed about that. They subscribe to the billiard ball model of politics. In billiard ball model, the two nations are never together. They always collide with each other and then they move away from each other. But in the cobweb model, the world are always united. The world are always interconnected. The countries of the world Right now, 193 member of the United Nations. There can be around to 200 countries. So these 200 countries can't be separated from each other. They are closely, they are interconnected with each other. Yeah. So here, so liberalism says that the trade, commerce, business, they bring the nations together. So this theory says that trading nations don't wage war, because they say trade, commerce, business is the most important factor for bringing peace in this world. So, and in the contemporary world, all the nations are trading with each other. Now we are in the age of globalization, sir. In this age of globalization, as we know, all know, the globalization is based on the theory of comparative advantage. So all countries have certain advantage in the production of certain things, and they have certain disadvantages also. So now the this developing a self-reliant economy has been given up in this globalized world. Now all the countries are more concerned about the quality of the product and the cost of the product. So if quality is good and cost is low, so the things will be produced, manufactured. And if the cost is very high and the quality is very poor, it will not be manufactured in that particular. So now through trade, commerce, business, the whole world is interconnected. And it is a win-win situation for all the countries. So here, if you want to focus on China India cooperation here, then the theory which is relevant to you is the theory of liberalism here. India and China, they are having burgeoning trade, huge trade here. Now China is the number one trading partner of India. Uh, their trade has exceeded $1 trillion trade, uh, more than $100 billion, and but that doesn't mean that this is not a mutually beneficial trade. It is mutually beneficial trade. Since it is mutually beneficial, that is why the volume of the trade is going up and up. It is not coming down, despite many geopolitical differences, geopolitical rivalry, etc. Despite many efforts, the trade between India and China has not come down. In fact, it has gone up. As you know that uh, after the corona, now corona, you can safely say that probably, I don't know whether we have entered in the post-corona world or still in the corona world anyway, but in the post-corona period, the trade volume, instead of coming down in terms of value and in terms of the volume also. So the volume and value of India-China trade has gone up. So it has not come down despite the Galwan incident. You know that our 20 soldiers lost their life here. So despite this tension at the border, etc., the trade is not coming down because it is a mutually beneficial trade. Yeah. This India is importing from them machinery, telecom equipment, the power equipment, solar panels, etc., etc. During Manmohan Singh time, in the name of security, Manmohan Singh government came out with a policy that telecom sector as well as the power sector, they will not procure their equipments from China source, because they say that telecom and power sector is a important sector from national security point of view, and national security can't be compromised. So we can't be dependent for our telecom services and for our power supply on the Chinese equipment. So he requested the corporate houses to bring down the import of desist from importing this telecom equipment and power equipment from China. But then the corporate houses in Manmohan Singh time, they said that if you expect these corporate houses to provide the cheaper call rate as well as to provide the cheaper power rates, so then you have to allow us to import the telecom equipment and power equipment from China sources, because they say that the same telecom equipment, the same power equipment, if we are importing it from Europe and America, we have to pay more. And if we are paying more for the telecom and power equipment, then definitely we have to raise the call rates for telecom sector and power rates for the energy sector. Then Manmohan Singh government was left with no choice but to allow these corporate houses to import their telecom equipments and power equipments from China. So the point I'm making here, since it is mutually beneficial for the countries, and that is why you are left with no choice, because for example, if someone is your friend and another is your enemy, but the same product is sold by enemy at very cheaper rate, and your friend is charging very high, so I'm sure that you will not look at your enemy, but you buy from him, and you will be looking at your friend, but you will not buy from him, because in the business, you always go for the good quality product and cheaper product. So here friendship is not that important, friendship comes later. The quality of the product and the rate of the product comes before that. This is the business. So India is doing business with China, and China is also doing business with India. So when the Indian and Chinese, the trade is beneficial. So if you are looking at this point, this aspect, then the relevant theory is the liberalism theory. Not only trade, there are many issues when this India-China relation is not confined only to the trade. There are other issues also where China and India are collaborating. You have this world trade talk, the Doha round of talks, the multilateral trade talks. So in the multilateral trade talks, India and China always join hand with each other. And here the India and China jointly oppose the American domination, the Western countries domination, European dominations here. So when there is a Uruguay round of talks, Doha round of talks, multilateral trade talks, or WTO meeting, World Trade Organizations meeting, so here you find that despite their differences, despite their enmity, India and China are speaking in the same language. India and China jointly they demand that the Bretton Woods institutions like World Bank and this IMF, these institutions should be restructured, because when the Bretton Woods institutions were created in 1945, at that time the world was different. India and China were weak; they were weak economies. Now the Chinese economy, the second largest economy. Indian economy is the fifth largest economy, going to be the fourth or third largest economy. So you can't ignore the role of the two leading global economies, India and China. But if you look at the IMF and World Bank, this India and China both are not getting the adequate representation in both these bodies there. So these two countries together, India and China, they are demanding that the Bretton Woods institutions created in 1945, they are not reflecting the global economy of 21st century, the 2022 world. So they are saying that it should be restructured. France is no longer a dominant economy. Britain is no longer a dominant economy. But this France, Britain, Italy, these countries, despite not being a dominant economy, they have a major say in IMF and World Bank, etc. You know, this IMF chief is always an European, and World Bank chief is always an American. So now the India and China are demanding that we are also large economy. Why these two institutions should be managed? And after all, these two institutions are not American or European institutions. These two are intergovernmental institutions, and these are working under the aegis of the United Nations. So whole world has a stake in it. So why not a non-European or non-American can become the chief of the World Bank, the chief of the International Monetary Fund? So both countries, India and China, they are demanding the restructuring of the Bretton Woods institutions. So here also they are cooperating. And then not only this, even in the climate change talk, UN framework conventions on climate change, and you are familiar that all the time there are some conferences going on the climate issues, global warming, etc. So here again on the issue of global warming, on the issue of climate change, India and China are again cooperating with each other. And you must be familiar with the acronym BASIC, the Brazil, South Africa, India, and China. They came together in 2009 Copenhagen conference, and they opposed this domination of the Western countries. And you know that the Western countries are not, they want to, they are against this CBDR, comprehensive but differentiated responsibility. The comprehensive but differentiated responsibility in environment talk, this idea came in the Kyoto Protocol, In Kyoto Protocol said that the polluters should pay. All those countries who have polluted the world, they must pay for the cleaning of the world. And all those countries who have not polluted, why they should be penalized there? The countries like India, China, or third world countries, Asian countries, etc., they have not polluted the world, and they should be allowed to grow because they're also backward. They're developing country here, so the developed and developing country can't be treated in the same way. So this principle, the comprehensive but differentiated responsibility, the CBDR, it was incorporated in the Kyoto Protocol, but America has always been opposed to this thing. And now America is saying that this comprehensive but differentiated responsibility, this principle should be given up, and the America and the China and India, they should be the part of all global effort for bringing down the global warming, the emission of the global warming gases, etc., greenhouse gases, etc. But if India and China and the developed countries are treated at par, definitely our economic growth, etc., will be affected here, because India has also to bring down the greenhouse gas emission, etc. The point I'm making here, I'm not going into detail into those talks. That questions we can take the questions in the while taking the discussing the question and answer session. But here I will say only this thing, that in climate talk also India and China, they are on the same page, they cooperate. So the point I'm making, India and China story is not all about conflict, it is also about cooperation also. So I have written a article, it is also available online, that India, whether India and China are eternal enemy or are allies. So they are enemy also. So for if you have to study the enmity between India and China, so you have to take the help of the theory of realism. But if you want to focus on their cooperation, their friendship, then the theory which is relevant to you, useful to you, the theory of international liberalism, this particularly complex interdependence theory. And again, you see that there has been a has been tension between India and China on their border. Galwan conflict we have not forgotten. Temper were running very high, and many international analysts and international critics, particularly all those who are in the journalism, they don't know much understanding of the international issues, international politics. They write for the newspapers, magazines, and they have very superficial knowledge. They even went to the extent of saying that now India and China are on the verge of war. India and China will never go to the war because they will be hurting each other. China is making huge profit with that with India trade. We all know that Chinese surplus is $70 billion, and you know the total cost of CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, it is only $50 billion. Means the China is making huge profit, 70 billion. With the profit China is making with India, they can finance one CPEC every year, because CPEC total cost is 50 billion and China is the trade surplus is 70 billion. Yeah. So why will China go for war with India when they are having so beneficial trade here? So all those international relations students who had faith in the theory of liberalism, they knew this thing, that this confrontation eventually will come to an end. Both will come to the negotiating table. They will talk and find a way out. You know, this India and Pakistan, India and China border have been one of the most peaceful and stable border. The last clashes which happened between India and China, it was in 1967 Nathula clashes, and probably 7 Indian soldiers lost their life. It happened in 1967. So after 62 war, the next major clash was at Nathula in 67. But after 67 war, there was no war, there was no casualty either on Indian side or Chinese side till 2020. You see the long period, this 20-year here, and then approximately 45 years, I think. I'm very poor in maths, but it is more than 40 years. So more than 40 years of long peace was there between India and China. The India and China never sought a they never had a shooting clash with each other. Even Galwan was also not even a single bullet was fired here. The Galwan Valley happened. 20 Indian soldiers lost their life. Some of them fell into the river. It was very cold river. Some people died there, and some people were beaten by the sticks, etc. But shooting did not happen because between India and China, they have this confidence building measures, and by the confidence building measures, India and China are bound that they will not be shooting at each other, even when they are patrolling. They don't have the guns also, etc. So they patrol those area aggressively. They do the patrolling. They push each other. They throw each other. They are throwing stones because they can't shoot. They can't fire. So when they can't fire, so they throw stone at each other. They fight with each other as we are wrestling. जो कुश्ती लड़ने की तरह लड़ते हैं, धक्का मारते हैं, करते हैं, but they are not firing at each other. So this kind of border is there. It has been stable border. The Galwan was a unfortunate incident. So why India and China is not fighting a war, not waging war? The main reason is their trade, their commerce, their business, their collaboration in the trade, multilateral trade talks, their collaboration in the climate talks. And surprisingly, you see this India and China, they are having the military exercises also. You must be familiar. It is called hand-in-hand exercise. And India is the member of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Shanghai Cooperation Organization is called the ASEAN NATO. It's a very strange. So if you have look at it, that how come India is the part of Shanghai Cooperation Organization? India is part of RIC, Russia, India, China trilateral arrangement. India, so there is a large number of points are there where India and China are cooperating, their interests are converging. So here, if you have to focus on this India-China cooperation, then definitely the realist theory, either the classical realism or structural realism, both theory are not relevant. The theory which is relevant, which can explain the cooperation between India and China, that theory is the international liberalism, the complex interdependence, etc. So now a lot of things about conflict and cooperation. Now moving to the other theories also. Now the third theory I'm coming to, that is the social constructivism. Now social constructivism right now, this is the one of the most popular theory, and as we all know that international relations, this discipline has evolved in the United States of America. And in the United States of America, the most popular theory is the social constructivism theory. So now you all know that we are living in the age of postmodernism here. So in modernism, in positivism, we are talking about the objective theories there. So this realism theory, liberalism theory, they focused on the objective theory. This thing was that some absolute truth is there, the objective truth is there, and this absolute truth and objective truth can be identified, can be discovered, theory can be developed. So that was the viewpoint of positivism here. Now we have come to the post-positivism, that is also called postmodernism. So here we have come to this conclusion that there is no absolute truth, there is no objective truth. The so-called objective truth and absolute truth is always a relative truth, is always a partial truth, is always, and they reject the objectivity. They say that every truth, so-called truth, is not objective, it is subjective. So subjective perception becomes the truth, and that is presented as a truth, but that is not the truth. So again from subjective word, we came to this objective word, the behavioralism and post-behavioralism also. Behavioralists focus on facts, focused on objective things, focused on science, scientific study, etc. And the behavioralist and including post-behavioralists also, they want to discard the values in the value-fact dichotomy. They are with the facts and they want to keep the values out. So again here in the postmodernism, again we have come to this thing that this is the subjective study, normative study. So in fact, it is cyclical word. We have come, the whole circle has been completed. So now coming to this post-positivism and postmodernism, when the objective truth is being rejected, it is being denied. It is being said that there is no final truth, there is no absolute truth. Every truth is the subjective truth, subjective perception, etc. So, the theory which has been developed in the international relations, the most important theory, this is the theory of social constructivism. Social constructivism is in all social sciences, but in international relations, this has been developed by Alexander Wendt. So Alexander Wendt has written a paper, later a book, and the title is the anarchy is what the state make of it. So anarchy, this Kenneth Walsh, Mersheimer, all realist thinker, structural realist thinker, they talk about the anarchy. Realism talk about the anarchy. Liberal also talk about the anarchy, but they say that this anarchy is the objective fact, objective reality. It is a truth, absolute truth. So if it is an objective reality, this means no change is possible. The objective truth, the objective reality is only one. But here social constructivism says no, the anarchy is not an objective reality, it is a subjective thing. So anarchy is not a given, anarchy is not a fixed, anarchy is not a, because their argument, it is a given thing. It is permanent thing, it is a fixed thing. You don't have any control, you can't change it. And it is it is a permanent, given, stable thing. But here they say it is not fixed, it is not a given. It all depends upon the perception of the people. So the same anarchy is being perceived differently by different persons. So here I'm explaining this point by giving an example from Indian foreign policy. The perception of Modi is different from the perception of Manmohan Singh. Since perception of Modi government is different from the perception of Manmohan Singh government, so definitely the response of Modi government will be different from the response of Manmohan Singh government. So if you are, so just to illustrate this point further, I'm giving you the example of surgical strike here. So surgical strike happened. Modi conducted the surgical strike, and then they publicized also that we have done the surgical strike after Uri incident and after the Balakot incident. 2 times the surgical strike were conducted, and not only conducted, it was publicized also. It was publicized so much that even critics of Modi said that it is a fake thing, it is a false thing. Nothing has happened here. Some say that some trees were shown, that the trees were affected. Some they said that no one was killed, nothing was happened. Some palm trees, etc., khajur tree, date trees were probably destroyed, etc. So they tried to belittle this thing. And then when this failed, then probably Congress people realized this thing, that probably Modi has got a very better image, good image, a muscular foreign policy, assertive foreign policy. So why Modi should get the credit? Then they came with their different theory. They said that Manmohan Singh government has also conducted surgical strike. So some military commanders came out. They said yes, the surgical strike was conducted during Manmohan Singh time also. So then again, the point here I'm making, because you see, since perception of Manmohan Singh government and perception of Modi government of the regional anarchy, global anarchy, regional structure, global structure was entirely different. That is why the response was different. Manmohan Singh government, despite conducting the surgical strike, they concealed it, they hid it, they did not tell the world they have conducted the surgical strike, because Manmohan Singh government was scared of the escalation of the conflict. Manmohan Singh government was thinking on this line that India is a nuclear country, Pakistan is a nuclear country, and if this confrontation is going out of control. So there might be a nuclear war, and probably both will be uh, destroying each other. There will be mad doctrine of nuclear things, mutually assured destruction. So that will happen. So because of those calculations, because of those considerations, Manmohan Singh government, despite conducting the surgical strike, they concealed it. They did not tell anyone. No one knew that it happened there. But you see, the Modi government, Modi was ready to take the risk. Modi was ready for the nuclear war also. Modi took they say that come what may, we will publicize, we will tell the whole world that we have punished Pakistan, we have taught him a lesson, and after this lesson, probably Pakistan will not try to have any terrorist strike in this country, etc. So the point I'm making here, if you go by this structural realism theory, if you go by this Kenneth Walls argument, go by the John Mearsheimer's argument, this realist argument, then there should not be any difference between Manmohan Singh response and Modi government response, because the word is same, the global order is the same, regional order is same, global constant is the same, regional constant is the same. So why these two different kind of responses? So if you have to explain the two different kind of responses, despite being the same structural and regional constant, the only theory which can be helpful to you is social constructivism theory, because this theory explains that since the perception of Manmohan was different from the perception of Modi, Modi was ready to take the risk, but Manmohan Singh was not ready to take the risk. So here the subjective factor becomes important. So the point I'm making here, the social constructivism is another important theory which can help you in understanding, in knowing the foreign policy of a country. So only this much I will say about application of the social constructivism theory to the different kind of foreign policy choices, the foreign policy response of different government, different leader, different foreign minister, different prime ministers here. Now I'm coming to the last theory here, that is the word system theory. How word system theory can be applied for explaining, for understanding India's foreign policy here. So word system theory, as you know, that it has been developed by Emmanuel Westin, and you all know that Emmanuel Westin borrowed heavily from the dependency theory of Latin America, the Latin American dependency school, the economics, who have developed the concept of core and periphery. So by borrowing this concept of core and periphery from the Latin American dependency economic theory, Emmanuel Westin has developed this word system theory in international politics. So what is the new thing Emmanuel Westin has added to the word system theory? So in between the core and periphery, he has introduced the semi-core and semi-periphery. So let us talk about that very briefly about this theory. So core is always exploiting the periphery. Because the kind of trade, the economic relation that exists between core and periphery, core is the supplier of the finished product, and the periphery is the supplier of raw material, the primary commodity is there. So, and again, the finished products price is always at higher side, and the primary commodity price is always at the lower side. Just to illustrate this point further, suppose to buy a black and white TV, you have to sell only 10 sacks of the wheat. By selling 10 sacks of the wheat, you can buy a black and white TV. But technology has advanced. Now you have the color TV. So to buy a color TV, you have to sell 20 sacks of the wheat. Only then you can buy a color TV. So again, technology has advanced. Then you are going for some plasma TV. Then you have to sell 100 sacks of the wheat to buy a plasma TV. Then some home theater, I don't know, then 500. The point I'm making, you have to pay more in terms of commodity to buy a product. And technology is always advancing, always going up and up. Higher value addition is happening. So the supplier of commodity, the primary sources, the raw material is always getting less, and the seller of the finished product is always in the better condition. They are always in the profitable situation, so they always make profit. So in this is a exploitative kind of relationship. The core is always exploiting the periphery, and it has been happening here. So if you see the relations between the developing countries and developed countries, a third word or first word, so you will find that third word is always at disadvantage. So this this core periphery relation. So and this core always wants to remain the core. They don't want that the product, the manufacturing should happen. The finished product should come from the peripheral countries. So they want to have the monopoly over the technology. They want to have the monopoly over the manufacturing, etc. And they want the periphery should remain the supplier of the primary commodity, etc. So this theory has been developed. Now, if you want to study the India-China trade, so to understand India-China trade, to explain India-China trade, the best theory which you can use for explaining this India-China trade, that is the word system theory. You see, the China is supplier of the finished product. India is the supplier of the primary commodity. You must be knowing that the major export of India is iron ore. More than 60% of Indian export to China is only one item, that is the iron ore. So, and apart from iron ore, other the primary commodities, the raw material, India is supplying to China. India has certain advantages in the pharmaceutical sector, certain advantage in IT sector, certain advantage in IT-enabled services. But in IT sector, in IT-enabled sector, and in the pharmaceutical sector, China is not allowing Indian companies to penetrate the Chinese market. They want to buy only iron ore and other primary commodity from India. They don't want to buy the IT services, the IT-enabled services, and pharmaceutical, the medicines, the drugs, etc. So where India has advantage, China is not opening its market, and China wants only primary commodity from India. And in this, you see the trade imbalance also. India is exporting only $20 billion and importing more than $100 billion. Huge trade imbalance, 70-80 billion dollar trade imbalance. China is having a surplus trade of $80 billion, something like that. And India always raises the issue that this kind of imbalanced trend cannot continue, but China only makes promises but not doing anything on the ground. They are not allowing our IT sector some permission they have given, but then again on this ground or that ground, they are not given the free hand to capture the Chinese market, etc. So the point I'm making here, by using this Emmanuel Westing world system theory, you can explain how China is exploiting India in its trade, in its imbalanced trade, how China wants to retain its uh, want to continue as a core or supplier of the finished product, and how China wants that India should remain a supplier of primary commodity only. So these are the four theories which I have discussed, used while explaining the different issues of Indian foreign policy or bilateral relations with other countries. So while talking about India's foreign policy, the bilateral policy, the multilateral policy, the regional policy, etc. So, so for every situation, some theory is always there. So that theory can help you in a better way to understand the topic, to organize your research material, to organize your topic in a, and your application of theory, use of theory will make your writing an academic writing. Otherwise, if you are simply narrating the facts, your writing will be a akhbar writing, newspaper writing, journals writing, all the journalists, all the news anchors, all the time speaking on TV, all the time writing on the newspaper, etc. But if you want academic rigor in your writing, in your presentation, etc., then you have to take the help of the theories also. Only this much I will say. Rest I'm leaving to you, and if you are asking the questions and this thing also, which theory can be applied where, we should also, we all are teachers here, so we are also supervising research. So while supervising research, we should also compel our students and that while they write their doctoral thesis, etc., they must have the proper understanding of theories, and they also must apply certain theories for their research work also. If they are focusing on the conflict, then they must use the realist theory, and if they are focusing on the cooperation, then they must use this liberalism theory, etc. So theorizing is must to make our study an academic study, to make it different from the journalistic writing or journalistic understanding of issue. Thank you so much.
थैंक यू सर। इसमें सवाल
Thanks, sir.
जो भी आपकी, जी हाँ
Sir, one question I would like to ask, sir. Very nice. Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm listening.
Sir, very well explanation, deliberately explained. Sir, my one question is that regarding Indo-China relation, that after coming Xi Jinping into power since March 2013, China has become more assertive and aggressive towards India. Even other nations, we can say that China is adopting aggressive policy.
Okay, thank you so much. It's a very good question, and in fact, China is closer to my heart. I focus a lot on China. In fact, many times I suggest that I should be allowed to speak on China. Okay, so you have given me the opportunity to say something on China. Okay, again I will be using the theory. Deng Xiaoping long back said that China should bid for its time. China should conceal its strength and should bid for its time, should wait for its time. So Deng Xiaoping made this statement in 1979 when he was introducing economic reforms, when he introduced four modernization of agriculture, modernization of defense forces, modernization of industry, etc. So in one word, economic reforms. And when Deng Xiaoping said that it is if the cat is catching the mice, so color of the cat is not important here. The important thing is that cat must catch the mice, and if it is catching the mice, whether it is what is its color, it immaterial. Means he was talking about going beyond the ideology. He was advocating that we should forget about this communism, etc. We should embrace the market reforms, economic reforms. And at that time, he said that China should conceal its strength, because he was of this opinion that the global factor, the regional factors are not in favor of China. So then he argued the concealing of the strength. And then second point, he said that China should wait for its time. So now Xi Jinping, Deng Xiaoping made this statement in 79, 80. So after 40 years, now things have changed. Now Deng Xiaoping was advised the appropriate time. So that appropriate time has come for China. And now there is no need for China to conceal its strength. So now China is revealing its strength, flexing its muscles, and telling the whole world that China is a powerful country and the Chinese power must be recognized. You see, earlier there was the realism says that there are two kinds of powers. One is satisfied powers. They are also called status quo power. And on the other hand, there is the revisionist power, or the power who are challenging the order. So in every point of the world history, the power can be divided into two groups: the satisfied power or the status quo power. And in the contemporary world, the satisfied power or the status quo power is United States of America, because the contemporary world order is in favor of America. The contemporary distribution of global power is in favor of America. So America wants to retain this word, America wants to perpetuate this world. But then there is a revisionist power also. The countries who are not satisfied with the distribution of existing power, they are challenging the system. They are more powerful. Their economy is strong, military is strong, but their power is not recognized. So they flex their muscles. They tell the world that we are powerful. And then the realism again says that when there is a rising power, revisionist power, dissatisfied power, so the dissatisfaction of the rising power leads to instability, the turmoil in the international system, and it leads to crisis and war. They say that it has happened many times in the world. When Napoleonic France, a revisionist country, Napoleon challenged the world order, led to the war in Europe. And then you all know that all Europe united and eventually they defeated Napoleon. And the second time under Kaiser William, Germany again was rising here. And since Germany was rising, but Germany's power was not being recognized by the other European countries, it led to the First World War. Again, the European countries united and defeated Kaiser William Germany. Third time again, Germany rose. And this time it rose under the Hitler. So rising Germany under Hitler again challenged the international system. Again, Hitler was defeated. So the point I'm making, whenever there is a rise of any country, it has always led to the war in the international system. So when the rise of China was being discussed, so Chinese scholars came with this argument that the peaceful rise of China, they used the word peaceful rise of China. The Chinese scholars made this argument, unlike other powers rise, because when other power has risen, they have destabilized, they have made the world unstable. But their argument was that unlike Germany's rise, Napoleon of France rise, the Chinese rise is a peaceful rise. It is not destabilizing. So they say it is stabilizing, it is a peaceful rise, etc. So they use the word peaceful rise. Though this word peaceful rise is against the teaching of the realism, because realism doesn't talk about the peaceful rise. Realism only talks about the destabilizing rise. Anyway, but Chinese scholars argued the peaceful rise of China, and American scholars were also very naive, or they deliberately did it. Many American scholars also agreed, okay, this rise of China is also peaceful. So rise of China will not destabilize this global order, world order. But now they have been proved wrong. So earlier they were using the peaceful rise of China. Later on, Chinese scholars realized that this rise itself is a geopolitical word. Rise itself is a word of geo-conflict, geopolitics here. And it is closely associated with the realism, theory of realism. So they have given up this term itself. They said China's peaceful development. They are not using the word rise peaceful. Earlier they were using the peaceful rise. Now they've given the word rise itself. Now they are using peaceful development of China. And they say the peaceful development China is in the interest of the world. Now I'm coming to the answer of your question. I have given very long answer. Now realism is being proved correct here. If any country has risen, any country has become powerful. So a powerful country will always flex its muscles. मोहल्ले में कोई आदमी दादा बदमाश गुंडा हो जाता है तो अपना शक्ति दिखाता है, प्रदर्शन करता है. कोई दारा सिंह की तरह पहलवान हो जाए और संत महात्मा की तरह घर में बैठा रहे, संभव नहीं लगता है. He will flex his muscle, he will show his power, he will show his strength. It applies to all. It applies to mohalla dada, it applies to any dada in the regional world, and any dada in the international community also. So now China has become powerful. China is the second largest economy. China has the third in terms of soldiers. China has the largest armed forces. If you take the number, you will go by the number. So China has the largest armed forces, larger than India. And if you go by the total strength, because the military strength doesn't come only by the number of the soldiers, it comes by equipment also. So number of nuclear weapons, missiles, bombers, and sophisticated weapons, etc., etc. So in terms of military strength, China comes third after United States of America. Russia second, China comes third. But now you can safely put China at the second number because now Russian power has been exposed. Russia has not been able to defeat a very less powerful country like Ukraine. For 1 year, they are fighting against the Ukraine, but they have not been able to defeat it. So now Russian military strength is now big question mark. So now you can say that China is probably this second most militarily powerful country after United States of America. So with this kind of military strength, with this kind of economic strength, with this kind of power and the surplus money they are having, etc., China will definitely flex its muscle, and they are flexing its muscle, and they have been doing it successfully. They have adopted Islamic slicing strategy. They have occupied a large part of South China Sea, East China Sea. Now the same strategy they are pursuing in the Himalayan region also, and they are nibbling our territory also. I don't know what is the truth, but some reports are there that probably they have grabbed certain part of our territory also. I don't know. But there was a report in the Tribune. I pray to the God that Tribune report is wrong. There it was said that probably China has taken possession of certain territory of India. So I don't vouch for the authenticity of that Tribune report, but somewhere I've read in the Tribune newspaper that is published from Chandigarh, some kind of report was there. Anyway, I'm citing this. So,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
so the point I'm making, so with the kind of power, and that it is as per realist teaching here. Realism says a country, when it will have the strength, it will have the power, definitely it will show its power. And that is why China is showing its strength in the Himalayan region as well in the South China Sea. Sorry, Himanshu, you were saying something, or some other person?
सर कोई श्रीकांत जी कोई बात करना चाह रहे थे। एक श्रीकांत, बताओ बेटा। श्रीकांत।
Yes, sir. Sir, I want to know, sir. I am audible.
Yes, you are audible. You are audible. I can hear you. You go on.
Sir, China and India big boundary problem. Then to effective both state trade relation, there will be more and more economical loss in India.
Economic loss here, partially I will agree with you. As I said in my presentation, the trade always happens when you have certain advantage there. If trade is not advantageous, no trade will happen. Trade is always in the in the interest of the trading parties. So trade is not like a war. Trade will happen, the transaction will happen when you feel that probably the commodity is required for you, and the price you are paying that is good, reasonable, only then you buy, or otherwise you don't have any option. Suppose the oil is $200 per barrel and India is not having its oil, so India has to pay $200 because you don't have any options. So in the trade, many things are there, and a situation arises where you pay the price when option is not available. But if you get the cheaper oil, definitely you will go for it. The moment Russia offered cheaper oil, India stopped importing oil from costly oil from Iraq and Saudi Arabia. They switched over to Russia because Russian oil was cheaper. So if the same logic applies to India-China relations also, India-China trade also. Take the example of solar panel. India is importing solar panel from China because solar panel imported from China is very cheap in comparison to the solar panel imported from Europe and America. So why India should pay more to America and Europe, despite they being our friend? So India is buying from its enemy because it is cheaper. Same applies to the telecom equipment. Same applies to the power equipment. I have already discussed this thing in my presentation. Definitely, India is having the trade huge trade deficit. But what to do? We don't have option. हम आपकी इसकी बात कर रहे हैं, हमारा जो है ड्रग्स की बात कर रहा हूँ. आपको मालूम है जो फार्मास्यूटिकल इंग्रेडिएंट्स हैं उसको क्या बोलते हैं, PMI या क्या बोलते हैं? वो उसका 90% इंडिया का जो है चाइना से आ रहा है। और जो ग्लोबल फार्मेसी हम हैं, चाइना अगर जो फार्मास्यूटिकल इंग्रेडिएंट्स हैं उनकी सप्लाई चाइना बंद कर दे तो ग्लोबल फार्मेसी छोड़ दो, देश के लोगों को दवा की सप्लाई बंद हो जाएगी। और उसमें कोई रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है, क्योंकि चाइना ने उसको सस्ता बना दिया, तो हमने अपने जो है अपने यहाँ से नहीं खरीद रहे हैं, हम चाइना से खरीद ले रहे हैं, वो सस्ता पड़ रहा है। हम बनारस में रहते हैं, बनारस के लोग चाइनीज धागा खरीद रहे हैं, इसलिए नहीं कि वो देश के दुश्मन हैं या चाइना के बहुत भक्त हैं, इसलिए कि चाइनीज धागा सस्ता पड़ रहा है, इसलिए उसको खरीद रहे हैं। हमारा भारतीय धागा शायद महंगा पड़ रहा है। तो चाइना ने जो भी उसमें है उनकी स्टेट की सब्सिडी होगी। चाइना इज नॉट वेरी ट्रांसपेरेंट, दे प्रोवाइड वेरियस काइंड ऑफ सब्सिडी टू देयर मैन्युफैक्चरर एक्सेट्रा टू हैव द अनफेयर एडवांटेज ओवर अदर। सो आवर लोकल इंडस्ट्री हैज बीन डिसिपेटेड, डिस्ट्रॉयड। अभी कोरोना पीरियड के दौरान गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने किया कि नहीं भाई, हम अपना आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनाएंगे, आत्मनिर्भर भारत की चर्चा हो रही है, सेल्फ रिलायंट बनाएंगे। वैसे कोरोना पीरियड में पूरे वर्ल्ड में आया कि सेल्फ रिलायंट बनाएंगे, कि जो ग्लोबल शिपिंग बंद हो गई तो ट्रेड बंद हो गया। अमेरिका में जो है टिश्यू पेपर के लिए लोग डिपार्टमेंटल स्टोर में लड़ाई कर रहे थे, क्योंकि वो टिश्यू पेपर अमेरिका नहीं बनता था, चाइना से आता था, और शिपिंग बंद हो गई तो टिश्यू पेपर आना बंद हो गया। और टिश्यू पेपर में कौन सा रॉकेट साइंस है, कौन नहीं बना सकता है, लेकिन चूंकि चाइना वाला टिश्यू पेपर सस्ता तो वहीं मंगा ले रहे थे rather than manufacturing in America. Then American also realized that we have to go for local manufacturing. For every needs, we have not to be dependent upon China or other countries, because this corona kind of things can happen again, and global shipping can be disrupted. So from where to get the essential needs? तो पूरे वर्ल्ड में इस बात पे हो रही है कि आत्मनिर्भर होना चाहिए। ठीक है, हमारा लॉस हो रहा है, लेकिन हमारे पास विकल्प नहीं है, या तुम अपना बनाए, हम लोग स्वदेशी को अपनाए। स्वदेशी तो हम लोग बात कर ही रहे हैं, हमारे कई विद्यार्थी स्वदेशी जागरण मंच में रहते हैं सब, लेकिन वो खाली स्वदेशी की बात करते हैं, मोबाइल चाइनीज ही खरीदते हैं। इंडियन लावा और क्या क्या कार्बन क्या कुछ आता है उसको नहीं खरीदते हैं, केवल स्वदेशी की बात करते हैं, जाके चाइनीज मोबाइल खरीद लाते हैं, क्योंकि चाइनीज मोबाइल शायद सस्ता भी है, बढ़िया भी है, और भारतीय लावा या कार्बन या क्या नाम है जो कुछ भी हो, पता नहीं बन रहा कि बन भी नहीं रहा है, पहले बनाया था। तो ये तो बिजनेस में ये है, मतलब उसको नुकसान तो हो ही रहा है। हमारा $70 बिलियन बताइए हमसे कमा करके, और पाकिस्तान को सहायता कर रहा है, तो वो तो हमारे खिलाफ ही जा रहा है, लेकिन क्या करें हम, कोई रास्ता नहीं है।
Next place partner.
Yes, good afternoon, sir. Hello.
Sir,
Yes, please. Yes,
Hello.
please. Go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you very much, sir, for such an informative session. As we were talking about the various theories to understand the concept of international relations, and you were focusing on to understand the relations between India and the China, I just want to know from you, when we talk about the restructuring of the United Nations, we are having the China as a permanent member of the Security Council over there. What is your opinion? Will China allow in the future for India to be the permanent member of the UNSC?
Never, never. And even America also is not very sincere. No country is sincere. You see, this is the problem with the power. All those who have the power, they want to monopolize it. Nobody wants to share the power. Only they will say good things. But even America is also happy that the Security Council is not expanded. And even so, America to have a good relation with India, and Britain and France and Russia, all 4 countries, because they want to have good relation with India, they are on good terms with India. So to please India, they always say that they want India should become the member of the Security Council. But neither America, nor Russia, nor Britain, nor France, despite their public statement, no one wants the expansion of the Security Council. They have nothing against India. They don't want the expansion of this club, because this is the exclusive club, and the smaller the club, it will be important here. Larger the club, it will lose its importance here. As far as China is concerned, definitely China is not, at least the constraint America, Russia, Britain, and France are having, because they are our so-called friend, good friend. But China is not in that category. China is not bothered about India. China doesn't want India to be part of the Security Council. And whenever the Indian membership will come, China will definitely use the veto. And with this veto, because without consensus among the five members, no, the Security Council can't be reformed, can't be restructured, can't be expanded. So we should not expect any kind of help from China regarding the expansion of the Security Council. I'm telling you one example. When Pratibha Patil was our president, she was visiting China, and in her honor, a banquet was hosted by the then Chinese president. What was his name? I'm forgetting. Hu Jintao, probably.
Using power, yes.
Yeah, Hu Jintao. So Hu Jintao hosted a banquet for her. So in the banquet, there's a custom that the guest speaks, and then that is responded by the host. So Pratibha Patil said that India is expecting the help from China for getting the membership of the Security Council. When Hu Jintao turn came to respond to President Pratibha Patil's address in the banquet, you know what did Hu Jintao said? Hu Jintao said, yes, China supports India's candidature to Security Council for non-permanent seat, not for permanent seat. It is a kind of adding salt to the injury. घाव पे नमक छिड़कना है, हम तो परमानेंट के लिए मांग रहे हैं, करें नॉन परमानेंट में हम आपके साथ हैं.
Non-permanent तो है ही already. Thank you,
So,
sir. Thank you very much.
so you see, China will for non-permanent they can support, and even in you see the NSC, the China is not allowing. It is because of Chinese veto. Till this date, India has not been able to become the member of NSC. And to prevent India's entry into NSC, China is always bringing the case of Pakistan. So, and so all the time they are creating the problems. And even this 2008 nuclear waiver, when it was China in IAEA agreed, but China agreed only because of tremendous American pressure. When China was almost isolated, then China did not use its veto in IAEA and etc. At least China allowed this Indo-US nuclear agreement is passed. This waiver from NSG and waiver from IAEA was given. China was part of it, but that waiver was only for Indo-US nuclear deal, but not for the permanent membership of the NSG, because of Chinese objection. India till this date has not been able to get the membership of NSG. So we should not expect any kind of help from China. So forget about China is our enemy, but even friend, I also doubt the sincerity of our friends, so-called America and other, because they want this club to remain an exclusive club, having a less number of less member in the council.
Thank you. May I ask a question, sir?
Okay, please go ahead.
I want to know that through which particular theoretical framework or paradigm we can understand the explicit non-condemnation of the India's stand regarding the Russian aggression on Ukraine, because India did not explicitly condemn the Russian aggression on Ukraine. So through which particular international theoretical paradigm we can understand its section?
When you talk about this war and etc., then the only theory is the theory of realism, the geopolitics. To understand geopolitics, the only relevant theory is the theory of realism. So, India wants to be on good terms with Russia because Russia has been our friend at many times. uh, America has never been a reliable partner here. America has been coming to us, going against us, helping us, all of a sudden dumping us. So American support to India has always been erratic. But as far as Russia is concerned, Russia's support to India has always been consistent. And because of this reason, India can't go against Russia. But that doesn't mean we are sitting in the lap of Russia. India is a significant power. India is a great power, and India is counted among the 5, 6 great power of this world. So India also doesn't want to be seen sitting in the lap of the Russia. So sometimes it also vote against the Russia, and India also takes the moral stand, the moral principle, because after all, Russia is an aggressor, and all the time you can't be seen standing solidly behind an aggressor here. So, depending upon our national interest, foreign policy, in fact, is the when we talk about the foreign policy, the main objective of the foreign policy is to protect and promote the national interest. And national interest demands that India should be neither with Russia nor with America, but India should maintain its neutrality. India's support is issue based on certain issues where it feels that Russia is correct, then Russia should be supported, and where it feels that Russia can't be supported, there India either abstains and even sometimes has voted against Russia also. Because Russia has also some valid concern. Because this was a when the Warsaw Pact was dissolved, when the Cold War came to an end, at that time there was an understanding between the Boris Yeltsin and the Bush administration at that time that NATO will not be expanded and NATO will not come to the boundary of Russia. But that gentleman agreement in the foreign policy has been broken by the United States of America, and now NATO has expanded to such an extent that it has come to the boundary of Soviet Union. And Ukraine itself was thinking of taking the membership of NATO. So then uh, Russia has to take some stand. So just think of the situation that our own Nepal is saying that it is joining a military-led alliance by China and going against India. Then what will India do? Will India allow Nepal to go and sit in the lap of China, with whom we have been having the traditional relations, etc.? And as far as Ukraine and Russia is concerned, they belong to the same community, Slavic community. They belong to the Christian Orthodoxy here. So culturally and language-wise, etc., they are very closer to each other. Even this Ukrainian president, his language is Russian, Ukrainian, not the Ukrainian, and he was a very hugely popular stand-in comedian in Russia also. He speaks Russia fluently, and he's a Jew. What is his name? Some Zelensky, something like that. So, so culturally, linguistically, etc., Ukraine and Russia has been very close to each other, as is the case with India and Nepal. We always say that India and Nepal, there is hardly any cultural difference between these two countries. So just think of this situation: Nepal going and sitting in the lap of China. What Indians will do? What Indian military thinkers, strategic thinkers will do? So that you think from that perspective also. So India always said that Russia also has some security concerns here, and there has also been some breach of the gentleman agreement by the Western countries also, America also. Yeah. So we can also say that Indian stand is possible, but we don't want to be seen to become follower of either America or in America. The Indian foreign policy, we talk about the strategic autonomy. Though we don't talk about the non-alignment, now we talk about the strategic autonomy. In strategic autonomy, we maintain our autonomy. We don't want to be seen closely behind America. That is why we are member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And at the same time, we don't want to be seen as an ally of China, so we are in the Quad also. So just think of situation how India is managing the membership of Quad as well as the membership of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So national interest demands it, and foreign policy is all about the protecting and promoting foreign policy. Did you get your
Excuse me,
answer?
sir.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
sir. I have a question to ask.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yes. Sir, first, let me thank you for delivering such a good and enlightening lecture for us. And now, my question is, sir, when it comes
Don't
to
tell.
family,
Don't tell this thing to me that I have delivered a good lecture. Tell your Professor Anuradha Agrawal ji and Pankaj
oh,
Kumar who has organized this lecture. Eh?
yeah,
So
definitely, sir, they also should be credited for us. But actually, individually, I'm talking to you. That is why
yeah.
I'm delivering my
No, but tell
heartfelt
them
thanks to you.
they must know that it is not the waste of time or waste of money for them. Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
No,
sorry,
sir,
I'm
after a
saying
long,
these
we
things in
are
the light
having
way.
such a fruitful discussion. Actually, my question is that when it comes to feminism and international relations, we often encounter a statement like the whole idea of nation carries masculinistic connotation. So, what is it? Actually, sir, I couldn't get it. What is it actually? The whole idea of nation is masculinistic in essence, or kind of.
Yeah, it's true, and the patriarchy is dominant in international politics also. So, because international politics is talking about the conflict, talking about the war. So, all the feminist thinkers they say that women are not visible in international politics. So they have almost disappeared here. So very briefly, I will say this thing now. This thing is being reasserted, but there have been many feminist scholars now. They are focusing on this thing that the role of women must be acknowledged, because in any conflict, it is the women who suffer a lot, but their suffering is not acknowledged. We always say that this many soldiers were killed, etc. But what happened to their families? What happened to their wife? What happened to their mother? What happened to their family? How the single mother is taking care of their children? So who is paying the ultimate price? Soldiers are dying in the on the war front, but later on the entire burden has to be carried out by this by their family, and particularly by the women. So, and in the many conflict also, the women are playing very important role. In many conflict zone, the women come forward and they form their own association. In Nagaland, there's a famous Naga Mother Association is there, and Naga Mother Association is so powerful organizations in Nagaland conflict. They have compelled the church, they have compelled the government, they have compelled their own insurgent, etc., to treat the women well. So the point I'm making here, in the conflict zone, the women are suffering. In the war, women are suffering. Women are suffering as others have suffered. Probably women have suffered more. So now, uh, uh, in international relations, the role of women, the contribution of women is being acknowledged, and in the peace building, in the peacemaking, it is being said that probably it is the women who can play important role in it, and eventually it is also said that women are more peace loving, yeah, because the women know the consequences of the war, etc. So now from feminist perspective, this rewriting of international relation is happening. There are many feminist IR thinkers are there. I have not focused much on feminist IR thinkers, so I will not be able to tell about them in detail. But now it is being acknowledged that the IR is the dominated by the patriarchal norms, patriarchal values, patriarchal this thing there. And now there are many women IR thinkers who are trying to bring the women in the center stage. So now the whole discourse is being uh, in a different way, the role of women is being acknowledged and articulated.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
कोई और सवाल तो ठीक है, कोई क्वेश्चन और?
Excuse me, sir.
Excuse
Yes,
me,
yes, please.
Excuse me, sir.
I want
Sir,
to
Dr. Manish Chaudhary speaking.
Yeah.
Sir, my question about economical sanctions against Iran and Russia announces by US. भारत का
You see
पहले
this
80%
Iran and
जो
Russia.
यस सर सर भारत का पहले है, ऑलमोस्ट 80%, वो हम ईरान से परचेस करते थे। पर जब इकोनॉमिकल सेंसेस लगे ईरान पर, भारत ने वहां से इंपोर्ट बंद कर दिया। पर रशिया पर इकोनॉमिकल सेंसेस लगे और हम रशिया से ज्यादा ईंधन खरीद रहे हैं। तो इस पर्पज से हम भारत का क्या व्यू देखते हैं, जो इस तरह से चूंकि हम ईरान से खरीदते हैं तो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट भी कम आती है, फिर भी हम रशिया से परचेस कर रहे हैं, ईरान से नहीं कर रहे हैं।
चलिए, आपका जो प्रश्न है बहुत अच्छा है, और मैं थियरी के टर्म्स में ही इसको बात कर रहा हूँ। और हमको लगता है ये आपके प्रश्न को उत्तर देने के लिए जो सोशल कॉन्स्ट्रक्टिविज्म की थियरी है अलेक्जेंडर वेंट की, ज़्यादा अच्छी है। कि ईरान पे सैंक्शन लगा तो हमने ईरान से बंद कर दिया, और रसिया पे लगा तो हमने बंद नहीं किया, रसिया से कर रहे हैं। तो इसका ये है, फिर वही मनमोहन सिंह को लग रहा था कि शायद अमेरिका हमको ज़्यादा दंडित कर देगा, और इसलिए ईरान से हम तेल खरीदना बंद कर दें। जबकि ईरान भी सस्ता, रसिया की तरह सस्ते में भी ऑफर कर रहा था। ईरान ने ये भी कहा था कि आप हमको डॉलर में पेमेंट मत करिए, रुपये में दीजिए, उसके लिए भी तैयार था। लेकिन शायद मनमोहन सिंह को डर लगा कि रसिया हमको ज़्यादा, अमेरिका ज़्यादा दंडित कर देगा। फिर हमारा वो जो न्यूक्लियर डील भी उसमें बातचीत हो रही थी। तो ढेर सारे जो हमारे अमेरिका से अपने संबंध सुधारने के चक्कर में, और अमेरिका नाराज न हो जाए, इस कारण हमने जो है ईरान ने भी, जब उस पर सैंक्शन लगाए गए थे तो ईरान ने भी अपने तेल के दाम कम कर दिए थे, क्योंकि कोई उनसे खरीद ही नहीं रहा था, तो बेचारे करें क्या, तेल कहाँ से बेचें। तो सस्ता कर दिया था। और भारत के लिए, चूंकि डॉलर फॉरेन एक्सचेंज हमारे पास उतना रहता नहीं है, किसी कंट्री के पास भी डॉलर, क्योंकि अमेरिका ने सिस्टम ऐसा बना रखा है विश्व का कि वो डॉलर में ही पूरे विश्व का ट्रेड होता है। और अमेरिका ने ये अपना कर रखा। अभी चाइना और दूसरे लोग चैलेंज कर रहे हैं कि भाई क्यों हम अमेरिका नहीं, हम अपने करेंसी में ट्रेड करें। तो और डॉलर की मोनोपोली जो वर्ल्ड ट्रेड पे है उसको तोड़े। बहरहाल दूसरा इशू है। यहाँ रसिया वाले बातें हुए, तो मनमोहन सिंह गवर्नमेंट के समय में रसिया पे लगा था, और मनमोहन सिंह ने नहीं किया था। और ये भी है कि खाली मनमोहन सिंह गवर्नमेंट ने, चीन ने भी अपना ईरान से अपना तेल आयात कम कर दिया था। उसमें चीन को भी लगा होगा कि अमेरिका से संबंध हमारे ज्यादा जरूरी हैं, क्योंकि चीन का सबसे बड़ा व्यापारिक देश जो है वो अमेरिका ही है। $500 बिलियन का उनका ट्रेड सरप्लस है अमेरिका और चीन का। यानी $500 बिलियन चीन हमेशा हर साल कमा रहा है अमेरिका से। तो उसको जियोपोटाइज नहीं करना चाहते थे, कहते चलो कहीं और से हम तेल महंगा ले लेंगे। तो भारत ने नहीं कम किया था, भारत भी कम किया था, चीन भी कम किया था। अब आप ये बात रहे कि रसिया से क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं, तो रसिया से तो चीन भी नहीं कर रहा है, और नहीं, क्योंकि चीन तो अब रसिया को, अब चीन तो अब अमेरिका को चैलेंज कर रहा है कि हम आपकी अब नहीं सुनने जा रहे हैं, हम अपने हिसाब से करेंगे। तो उनका समझ आया, दे आर नॉट बॉदर्ड, दे आर नॉट कंसर्न अबाउट अमेरिकन डिस्प्लेजर। तो वो कर रहे हैं। भारत क्यों कर रहा है, भारत तो उनसे है। तो भारत भी, जैसा मैंने कहा कि अब मोदी रिस्क लेते हैं। तो हमारे एक विद्यार्थी हैं, मोदी डॉक्ट्रिन पे काम कर रहे हैं, उसी फैक्टर पे कर रहे हैं कि मोदी के पास साहस है, मोदी के पास वो है, तो वो चैलेंज साहस वो कर रहे हैं। तो मोदी शायद वो कैलकुलेटेड रिस्क ले रहे हैं। वो कह रहे हैं चलो भाई, आर पार के देख लिया जाएगा, अमेरिका क्या करता है, हम रूस से खरीदेंगे। तो अमेरिका के सैंक्शन के बावजूद भी भारत जो है रूस से तेल खरीद रहा है, और अमेरिका अभी कुछ कर नहीं पा रहा है। अब भारत को उन्होंने चेतावनी जरूर दी कि भाई ऐसा करिए वैसा करिए, लेकिन फिर बाद में अमेरिका ने कहा कि भाई एक पॉइंट है, अमेरिका, अब इंडिया भी एक ग्रेट पावर हो गया, इंपॉर्टेंट पावर हो गया है, अब उसको पुश ओवर नहीं कर सकते, बिल्कुल कॉर्नर नहीं कर सकते हैं। तो अब अमेरिका ने लगभग आंख सामूद लिया है कि भाई खरीदने दो। जयशंकर का फेमस स्टेटमेंट आपने सुना होगा कि हम तो महीने भर में उतना तेल नहीं खरीदते हैं जितना दोपहर तक में जो है वो खरीद लेता है, यूरोप खरीद लेता है, तो हमसे ये बात मत करिए। तो आपकी सोशल कॉन्स्ट्रक्टिविज्म अलेक्जेंडर वेंट कह सकते हैं कि मोदी या मोदी गवर्नमेंट इज रेडी टू टेक द रिस्क, और उस रिस्क में सफल भी हो रहे हैं, क्योंकि अमेरिका उनको अलाउ भी कर रहा है। आपको कैटसा वाला भी याद होगा, काउंटरिंग अमेरिकन सैंक्शन कुछ क्या है, वो जो हम S-400 जो रसिया से खरीद रहे थे, उस पर भी अमेरिका को आपत्ति थी कि S-400 क्यों वहां से खरीद रहा है। तो कैटसा उनका एक कानून बनाया उन्होंने, काउंटरिंग ऐसे कुछ सैंक्शन ऐसे कुछ करके है, पूरा नाम याद नहीं आ रहा है। तो कैटसा को फिर अमेरिका ने बाध्य होकर के उसका एक्सेप्शन प्रोवाइड किया, वेवर प्रोवाइड किया इंडिया को, कि भाई वो S-400 को इंडिया को वहां से। तो इंडिया इज ए सिग्निफिकेंट पावर, neither America can afford to alienate annoy India, nor Russia can afford to alienate and annoy India. So now India is in a win-win situation. सभी कंट्री हमको कोर्ट कर रहे हैं और अभी इंडिया को कहा जा रहा है इंडिया स्विंग पावर है. स्विंग पावर मतलब इंडिया जिसके साथ जाएगा वही पावरफुल हो जाएगा. इंडिया अमेरिका के साथ गया तो अमेरिका पावरफुल हो गया और अमेरिका कहीं चीन के साथ गया तो चीन पावरफुल हो जाएगा और इंडिया कहीं कंप्लीटली रसिया के साथ तो रसिया चलाएगा. तो जो स्विंग पावर है तो स्विंग पावर का इंपॉर्टेंस होता है. तो स्विंग पावर को सभी अपने में खींच लेना चाहते हैं. रसिया अपने पाले में लेना चाहता है, अमेरिका अपने पाले में लेना चाहता है, चीन अपने पाले में लेना. चीन के यहाँ भी बहुत से उनका कहा जा रहा है कि भाई भारत को बहुत ज्यादा परेशान मत करो, नहीं तो पूरा चला जाएगा अमेरिका के साथ, हमारा नुकसान होगा. तो कुछ ऐसा रखो कि मतलब हम उससे हमारे अच्छे संबंध में. ऐसा ढेर सारे चीन के जो स्ट्रेटेजिक एनालिस्ट हैं उनका ये कहना है. तो मेरा ख्याल है ये जो तेल वाला था कि हम रसिया से क्यों ले रहे हैं, ईरान से क्यों नहीं ले लेते हैं, यही प्रश्न था कि कुछ और था आपका? चौधरी साहब यही प्रश्न था, कुछ और पूछ रहे थे आप?
यस सर, यही प्रश्न था और बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर, आपने बहुत अच्छे से उसको समझाया. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
सर मुझे लगता है सभी लोग की जिज्ञासाएं शांत हो गई होंगी. ऐसा मुद्दा है ये. और इंटरनेशनल
यस सर, जिज्ञासाएं तो शांत हो ही गई है काफी सारी.
जी जी जी. और अभी सर को अगर सुनेंगे आप खास करके फॉरेन पॉलिसी पे, तो मुझे लगता है कि एक सेशन छोटा पड़ेगा हम लोगों के लिए. इसके लिए पूरा दिन चाहिए हम लोगों को. और खैर सर ने जिस तरह से हम लोगों को जिस थ्योरी को समझाया है और जिसने उसके अपसेट को लेके वो वाकई में काबिल तारीफ था और हम लोगों को नया सुनने को मिला है. और हमारे बीच में आज के वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के लिए प्रोफेसर मधुरेंद्र कुमार, पंडित दीनदयाल उपाध्याय, चेयर प्रोफेसर.
अरे ये पहले क्यों नहीं बताया कि सर बैठे हैं? हमको क्या नहीं था ना
सर वो
अरे मुझे तो लगा कि अनुराधा जी हमको इंट्रोड्यूस करा के चली गई, कोई नहीं है. सर बैठे तो बताना चाहिए था. तो सर को तो सबसे पहले प्रणाम सर, हमें मालूम नहीं था आप सर हैं.
नमस्कार नमस्कार.
सर नमस्ते. सर नमस्ते. मुझे हिमांशु ने को बताना
नमस्ते
चाहिए.
नमस्ते नमस्ते.
जी 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 सर, ये बढ़िया है सर, लेकिन हिमांशु को पहले बताना चाहिए था सर. हमने ध्यान मतलब इसमें
नहीं, मैं बड़े I was listening to your discourse with very rapt attention and
नहीं सर, थैंक यू सर. आपका ये बड़प्पन है सर, बड़प्पन है सर आपका.
नहीं 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 नहीं. It was very interesting. The kind of discussion which took place and the nature of interaction was very rich, and the points which Professor T.P. Singh has mentioned in his presentation are really very valid points pertaining to the rise of China, its impact on the contemporary international politics, particularly what kind of redistribution of power has occurred in the present day international system, and how there has been, with the rise of China, it's a dramatic symbol of the redistribution of global wealth. And the rise of China, we were mentioning, I was really very much keen to know so many things and so many aspects of the rise of China. And what personally I feel that the event, that is the rise of China, which has marked the end of unipolar international system, and it's a arrival of a new era in the world, and it has also signaled the non-revisionist intent. It's extraordinary growth and very active diplomacy. It has shown in a very short time span, and by transforming the global and the East Asian politics. So this has caused constant redistribution or readjustment of the other key actors in global politics. So these are a few observations. With these observations, I express my gratitude to Professor T.P. Singh for sparing some time for this refresher course from his very, very busy schedule. I know that Professor TP Singh has a very busy academic schedule. So we are thankful to you, Professor TP Singh, and I profusely thank you uh, on behalf of the Department of Political Science, University of Allahabad, and my own behalf uh, for sharing your valuable thoughts with the participants to this refresher course in political science. And I'm also thankful to the participants who were keen observations and many, significant questions. They, the entire exercise, this academic exercise was so lively, so fruitful, and so meaningful. So we are also thankful to the participants as well as the uh, person who is coordinating on behalf of Professor Anuradha Agrawalji, Dr. Himanshu. So once again, I thank you so much, Professor TP Singh, and thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank
सर
you, sir. Thank you very
सर
much.
आई एम सर आई एम थैंकफुल टू यू सर और जो भी मैंने थियरी सीखी है सब आप ही सीखी है सर यू हैव बीन
अरे
माय
नहीं नहीं भाई
as
it
far
is
as
it is
theory
it
is
is it
concerned
is
I
all
have
your research and your
नहीं sir
endeavor.
I have learned from you sir I have learned from you a lot you are not my elder brother but you have been my mentor also so whatever I are I know it is all because of your encouragement and as far as theory is concerned so I owe a great deal to you sir theory मैंने आप ही सीखी है sir so thank you so
अरे
much
नहीं नहीं ऐसा नहीं है it's your
yes sir
humility and it's your
yes,
academic endeavor. You have enriched the discourse on so many platforms in India's foreign policy, and this topic which you selected for today's discussion, theorizing India's foreign policy, is a rare topic nowadays. People talk of India's foreign policy and they dwell upon narratives, but looking through the lens of theory is really a very difficult task, and you have made this task very easy by your in-depth analysis and very very you say raising very thought-provoking questions related to the rise of China, its impact of India's foreign policy. Anyway, so after this formal vote of thanks, we can, talk, after this on telephone or whenever I'm coming to Varanasi. So once again, thank you very much on behalf of
thank
the
you sir
Department
thank
of
you sir
Political
and it was
Science.
really I